everyone, to the Politics of Survival. I'm your host, Tara Reade, and I am really happy to be here tonight. And I have another warrior coming on the show. Her name is Mira Terada. She was on the show when she was helping do interpretation for, I think it was like 2 weeks ago with Igor and Fena about the website, the kill site from Ukraine that's backed by the Ministry of Kiev, the regime that's in place, that was placed in by the US in 2014. And this kill site, called the Peacekeeper site or something, and I don't know the Ukrainian word, is doxing and threatening to kill. And when someone has been killed, like a journalist, and there's been, I think, 11, and Mira can correct me if I'm wrong.
12. There are 12.
12. Okay. And so they are, every time someone dies, they put liquidated. It's disgusting. A few years ago, the US State Department called it a terrorist website. Why is it still working? Why does it say Langley, Virginia on it? What the hell is going on? And people need to be loud and talk to their representatives and say, take this website down. There's over 200 children's names on it. So Mira Terada started a foundation against injustice. And I want to talk to her tonight about this website, about her personal story and her experience living in the United States, and a lot of other things. So welcome, Mira, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, Tara. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah.
So
fired up tonight.
Yeah. So what happened? Oh my God. I lived in the United States for 8 years. I've been going back and forth, but the total amount of time I spent in the United States, 8 years. So US for me is like a second home. I lived in Washington, D.C. I lived in Houston, Texas. I've been traveling around United States. I have many friends, relatives living there. I have partners who I work with in the field that I'm working on right now. I will tell you about it a little later. And while I was in the United States, I got married. I got married to American citizen, and he was originally from Asian country, and so he had Asian mentality. And later on in 2018, I've been traveling to Europe, and I was traveling to Spain, Madrid, and I got arrested in Finland, in Helsinki, where I had a layover. And 43 days later, after I've been already in custody, not even in jail, but straight in prison, in male prison, they gave me cell.
Sorry, could you go back for our audience? Why were you arrested?
43 days later, I found out that Washington Interpol issued an arrest warrant for me. And I was accused of conspiracy on drug something. And then 4 days later, after my arrest, there was another arrest warrant issued, as I found out later, conspiracy on money laundering. So I had over 6 months of long fight with the extradition, but I lost that fight. And the following day, after extradition decision was made by Minister of Justice in Finland, he quit his job.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and 3 days later, I was picked up by the U.S. Marshals and was extradited to U.S. to the detention center in Alexandria, Virginia, where I spent about 10 months. I still was not indicted by that time. All that was happening only based on a criminal complaint. And later, 10 months later, I think I was indicted. And then I had to sign a plea on one count of conspiracy on money laundering. There was no way I could prove my innocence. By that time, like a year later, my ex-husband was arrested as well. And he gave a testimony to the Interpol that I didn't know about anything. I was innocent, and I was hoping that he would go to my trial and testify as well. And I had a couple of witnesses that could testify on my behalf as well. But in a weird way, like a week before my trial, my ex-husband disappeared. He was supposed to be transferred. He didn't waive the he did waive extradition, so he was about to arrive to United States before my trial. And then all of a sudden, the people that were helping me from outside, they couldn't find him in the Czech Republic, where the jail that he was held in. And he did not arrive according to our information to the US, but actually he did arrive. He was held in the same jail and he was hidden. And as soon as I signed the plea guilty, the following day his information appeared in jail. Same jail, just like a floor above me. And it was a long story because I ordered us keep separate because it was very difficult marriage. I was terribly abused, not only in a way of just as you would imagine how physical abuse would be, like he would push you or punch you or slap you or something like this. He was torturing me. Like he had Japanese roots, so he would do the weirdest stuff. Like he would tie my wrists and ankles with the zip tie locks, and he would leave me on a tile floor in the kitchen like this, like just tied up, and he would say like, you have 20 or 30 minutes to get out. And like, you, I don't know if you know, but then longer you try to get to take them off, then more tight they become on your wrist, so like it will cut my wrist, still blood. And then like, and he would say like, you have 20 or 30 minutes, and he say, if you won't do this, you will be punished. And then he comes back to the kitchen with like knife like this. And I remember he sat behind, like he set me on the floor and sat behind me and hugged me with his knees, you know, from behind. And like he put the knife to my body, and I thought that he would stab me in that moment, you know, but he did not. Then he just cut off the ziplock, and then like he would tase me in the car when the car is locked. So like I was able to just drag twice the handle in the car door, and I fell out of the car when car was moving, just because I didn't want to be tased no more, you know. And he would do just weird stuff like that, like a clear torture, you know. And he looked like he was getting pleasure from this, so I don't know, his eyes looked just crazy. And he knew that he had a great like behavior issues. He even took classes. It's officially on his record in the United States that he tried to change, you know. And was like, when he was making this little tries to these changes, I believed him that he wanted to change, you know. And I remained staying with him. And like, this is issue of many victims of domestic violence, that we kind of depend, I guess it's codependency in a way, to the person who abuses us, who tortures
They call it
us.
Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. You start
It
thinking,
is, yes. And one day, with his aggression issues, he wanted to shoot somebody, and he ran to get it. Was happening at the apartments where we lived at that time. And he ran into the bedroom to get a gun, and I ran after. Like he said, like, I'll kill him. And he ran to the bedroom, and I ran after him, and I met him already at the door entrance when he was holding the gun. And I started trying to grab his arms to stop him, and then he shot me. And I ended up in the Memorial Hermann Hospital. Actually, I ended up in some other hospital. I don't remember which one was that, but they could not do the surgery there, so they transferred me to the Memorial Hermann Hospital, where like they did all kind of stuff, and
where were you shot?
saved me. Leg, like the bullet came to the door and ricocheted from the door into my leg, and it crushed the bone. So it was terrible healing process. It took a very long time. I was first in a wheelchair. They said I would never be able to walk again, but then I was pushing, you know. I could not just be agree It was in 2015, so it was like what, 7 years ago. At that time, I was 27. I couldn't agree be on a wheelchair at 27, you know. And so I was pushing myself, and then like I moved slowly to the walker and then to the cane, you know. And then like I was making my first baby steps around the coffee table. I still remember how painful it was. 2 steps, I break all in sweat, you know, because it was so difficult. I had to learn how to walk again. And anyhow, when I was already in jail, so I couldn't leave him, you know. Like like at first, when we lived in the United States, he wouldn't let me go. He would keep my passport. My cell phone would work only from Wi-Fi. So if I would be outside, my phone doesn't work. I didn't have any pocket money. He wouldn't let me to go anywhere on my own. It would be either him, either someone around me. Like he would lock me in the house and things like that. And then when I was able to physically separate from him, I left to Russia, but he called me and he convinced me that he wants to come to Russia and save our marriage and things will be different. And of course, I don't know, as probably many women, I believed him again, and I let him come to Russia. And again, he's hard, like he tried to change hard, but there's something inside him, some mental issue, you know, that doesn't let him. And I was hoping that medically it could be fixed, but he didn't want to take any medication, you know. But what he did, he would drink, and alcohol just like would make it even worse. And in this case, when he was in Russia, he became like so depressed that he didn't want to work. The culture difference, the language difference. He'd been learning language, but it still was not fast enough as he wanted to. So he became completely dependent from me because I was working at the international IT company. And in this case, I could not, you know, kick him out because I understand that he doesn't have nobody. So it just like, it was so crazy, you know, it was that circle that I could not break. And finally, when finally, I guess in a way, because this relationship was going downhill so badly, I mean, the abuse continued in Russia. Like when he came to Russia, like he held himself like for about 1 month, and then everything went back to the same circle. And then he beat up my stepfather, and then later on he would raise his hand on my mother. So things just got completely out of it, like out of, I wouldn't even say call it out of hands. It just went crazy, insane. And I was looking for the ways how to get out of this marriage, but I knew that we need like a physical separation, because it's the only way for the domestic violence victim. Physically separate yourself, to change your phone number so he would not have allowance to you completely. And me and my mom, we went, my stepfather passed away, and that's how we went on that trip. She was very depressed, so I want her a little bit like to get away. And that's how I got arrested. And that's actual physical distance helped me, like this bad thing that happened to me, helped me to think what was happening and kind of work on my brain. I worked with a psychologist also inside the prison, and then I got consultation from the lawyer. Then I got consultation from the psychologist. Then I met with the priest, because in Orthodox Christianity, divorce is something, you know, that not really accepted unless, you know, some certain circumstances like mine. So I kind of got explanation from the priest. So I felt free to file a divorce, which I did. And yes, already
in the church allowed you to stay in the church. I mean, did they allow you to stay?
Yeah, yes, of course. Oh, what a cat.
He's listening to your story, and he sympathizes.
Yes,
I think
looks like it.
His name's Che Guevara. Anyway, go ahead.
He is very cute. And when he arrived in the same jail, I ordered us keep separate. But unfortunately, U.S. authorities in jail, they ignored it. But I would believe if it happens once, it's a mistake. But when it happens second, third time, it's already an intention to see what's going to happen when they see each other. And that's what they did. They would cross us constantly, like either like at the a church service, which he wouldn't go because he's a Buddhist, but he would go there, register there just to see me. And like we keep separate. We shouldn't be together. Anyhow, long story short, I had to plead guilty. I got one count on conspiracy on my laundering, and I got 3 years. The judge took 6 months off for the time that I spent in prison, and then I had like 2.5 years left. And on my release day, I was not released. And later on, I found out that U.S. authorities lost my passports, so I couldn't fly back home. And besides that, they kept my international passport. But I know that they didn't lose it, because now working with prisoners, with Russian prisoners who are arrested all over the world, I know that it's normal practice when authorities keep your documentation and they just use it for whatever purposes. And they kept my national passport, which is the property of Russian Federation, and they knew it, and it's completely illegal, but who cares, because US law is the extraterritorial law. So none of the laws, including international laws, unless they're part of that agreement that they signed, touches them. They can do whatever. And so when you don't have your national passport, you have to prove that you're the citizen of your country. So I had to prove that I'm Russian. And then they said that I got COVID. And 2 weeks after I was diagnosed with COVID, I had already normal tests, but they did not report that I'm healthy to the ICE. In order to prepare my deportation papers. So they kept me extra 4 months. Like without any actual reason.
Did the Russian government help you at all, or?
Of course, they were trying what they could, but it's like, one side field game. Like they would write something and they would not get any response. And I had an attorney already at that time, the hired attorney, because before I had court appointed one. This is another hilarious thing. If you're a person who launders money or who conspires to this, you probably do have money. Like in my case, I had court-appointed attorney. And I mean, like, it was just ridiculous. Like the whole thing.
Do you feel like there was a reason you were targeted? Other than, I mean, were you targeted is what I'm asking you, by the US government, or what is your opinion about this, or your
I'm confident about it. I actually wrote an autobiographical book about it, and I made 4 different guesses why that happened. I'm confident that I was targeted, and I know that in all those, whichever case that was, I was used as a...
I'm sorry?
The name of the book is the Hostage of Country of Freedom, 888 days in American prison, because that's exactly like how long I spent. 888 days. Weird number.
Is it available on Amazon or anything? Is it available?
It's in Russian right now, but we are working on getting it translated, so English speaking audience also can read it, because it's interesting experience. It's very easy to read, and I'm not only talking about my story as much. I talk about people that I met and their destinies, and how everything works inside, and how opposite it is from what you dream of when you go to the United States. I still love that country, don't take me wrong. I'm not mad about what happened, because it's not the people who did that to me. It's the system that currently is in United States that just chewed me and spit me out, in order just to use me as a tool in whichever interests they try to follow. And when it doesn't happen, when you cannot be used and controlled in the way they want, they just chewed you and spit you. And unfortunately, that's what happened to me. And the funny part, like, I hope that what they've been doing, because what was used against me while my incarceration, according to the international law, would be described as a torture, because all those shackle system that right now in the US, according to the international law, it's a torture. All the situation with the food, with the lack of medical care, with the psychological pressure on a daily basis, segregation, because I was segregated over 1 year. I was not outside, like I didn't have any fresh air for over 10 months. I did you don't have a mirror, you don't know how you look like, you don't have a watch, so you will be lost constantly. You don't you don't have clear windows, so you don't really know, is it day, is it night, is it winter, is it summer, only those weirdest shadows. And all this, according to the international law, is torture. The fact that I was shot was used as a pressure toward me also, because during some time after you're supposed to go to sleep, they would turn on the sounds of shotguns, So like it's just ridiculous. And
while you were trying to sleep, they would.
yeah. Yes, and then while
Why?
you're
What was the purpose of that? Just to torture?
It's a type of psychological pressure, because of course it's a torture, because you do have flashbacks, you do have phantom pain, and all the type of things. But every human being can adjust to anything, I guess. And yes, you are tortured first week, but then every day you get better and better and better, and every day you go through this pain, but then you either accept this pain in a different way, either you just learn how not to pay attention to it and focus on what's more important. That's where I learned how to meditate really good. I thought I did meditation before, but that's the probably a point of my life where I learned how to focus on what I need to be focused in order not to notice what's happening around me. And then they wouldn't let you sleep, because they would go making their rounds, and they either will use the flashlight, which is if you will light something like this, it does quickly in a little window in your door, it does remind you again shots, because when the gun shoots, you see the light quick, and that's what they do again, and then they would either keep you in a completely cold place, or they would keep you in a hot place, changing all these temperatures and all this medication stuff. You don't know what medication you're taking, because you don't see the box. They would bring it to you in a cup, what are you taking? You have no idea, and all these crazy reports. I remember I moved to one prison, and I was there only for 3 days. It was quarantine, and so I don't go anywhere outside of myself except for 1 hour a day. And in 3 days, they had 60 pages paperwork on how I behave, how I raise my eyebrow when I'm reading a book. But how do you know if I don't I don't see an obvious camera in myself? What does it mean? It's just disgusting, if you would. And then I had some amount of time when I had to live in a cell with the camera that working 24/7, and then they would put you through the through the strip searches. And then my extradition process, for example, was without any female. It was all men, so you would have to go to the bathroom handcuffed with the man. You would have to you spend we were flying almost 24 hours, because we had a layover in Amsterdam, and then it was a plane delay and so on. So you would have to be with that person constantly, and it's a man. And after the abuse I went through, it's not that easy. Anyhow, there was a lot. I'm writing about some of the stuff in the book. Some of the stuff will go into other parts of art that will be made out of my story. But anyhow, I wrote another book.
I'm so sorry that you went through that in the
It's
US. And especially being a domestic violence victim, and nobody in the US helped you. And instead they just, harmed you. And there's so much xenophobia and bigotry here. It is so disgusting.
I actually did try to get help in Texas.
Change.
I did try to get help in Texas. That day when I fell out of the car and my ex-husband drove away, I was able to get a hold of 911. And when police came, they refused to go into the house because he was in there and he is the resident of the house. And I was an immigrant and Russian. And and that's all. That's all what matters. Oh, Russian got in fight was here. Like, they were even asking if we are legally married, and of course, I don't have any paperwork on me, so they didn't even believe the fact that we were officially married. They thought that I am the Russian who came to United States, a gold digger, and got in fight with her boyfriend, and it's just ridiculous. So of course, according to that, I also had a huge disappointment in the police from the beginning. Had trust issues with them because had terrible experience. So there's just a lot. And then I wrote another book actually about how to resist psychological pressure that's been translated to French and published last week in Canada. And that book is in Amazon and so on.
What's the name of it?
How to survive under psychological pressure.
That's the name of it. Okay.